When I sweep around into the firing position, I try to keep my hand below my shoulder. I do not want to drift up high at all. Okay, that time I got it all. Kind of continuous motion with my hand staying out in front. All right, today let's talk about jacking Skagit heads or Skagit setups. And the reason I thought I'd talk about that is because yesterday or last weekend when I was coming down the cast, there was a guy down here and I started watching him, and he was trying to just totally just knock it out of the park with a Skagit head and a sink tip and all that. And I will say that his form was really nice. He did pretty much a lot of good stuff. You know, he'd like sweep around and then come around and be in really good position, you know. And then he just would he would hammer it so far hard, his leg would come up and he bam, just hit it. And it literally went nowhere. I mean, it just was so bad and it looked so good up to the point where he just hammered the royal crap out of it and it didn't go anywhere, that I thought, man, they're still trying to do it. And I'm a fine one to talk because I like to jack them, but it's just like too much work, you know. Anything over maybe a dozen strips for fishing is just more than I want to do, especially at once. 8 might be about right. I just don't like stripping that much, and that's the issue. And so I thought I would talk about what I do when I really want to launch one, and what the problem is with people trying to jack them before they're ready. And I don't want to be a killjoy. I think you should be able to do whatever you want to, and if that includes jacking a OPST line for 18 strips, then more power to you. Okay, so I don't want to be the buzzkill guy who makes you do everything proper and it takes, you know, a year to learn to properly cast if it really doesn't. But what I will say is you have to have a good sound fishing cast of say 6 to 8 strips or 4 to 6 strips, a decent light anchored, nice D-loop, beautiful forward cast loop, good turnover, straight cast before you should even try jacking it, or maybe work on the first part and then at the end of the session, if you want to just launch some, go for it. That, you know, I get the idea, but you got to do things in order or it's not going to work out. And just coming out and trying to just jack them is like, usually, and yes, unless you're some kind of child prodigy or old guy prodigy, it's just not going to work out until you get things figured out about the cast in general. So the first thing I usually check when somebody's having trouble, I usually check and make sure they got their line on right, because I've even done it. I know a lot of guys have done it. You put your line on upside down, so the front's in the rear and the rear's in the front. Or they got some freaky setup where they threw in an extra cheater, or they got like a size 4 sculpin on there, just something funky. It's like they're just setting themselves up for failure. So I just like to have a nice matched rod. And I am casting the Loop 7X 13-foot 7 weight, and it is a Scandi rod. It's a lovely Scandi rod, but it will cast a variety of lines, okay? And last weekend I tried to make this video, but my audio wasn't working, but I used a 500 grain, 510 grain Airflow Skagit Scout. And it was fine, but it was heavy. And I like to try to get away with not a heavy Skagit line. If I can cast a lighter grain that's going to not bog the rod down so much, and it's going to make the rod able to do the work, still bend the rod, but it's not going to just make it slow and sloggy. I'd rather underline it and maybe not get the exact load than to overweight it and just have like be casting a 30-foot long wet sock. That just does not do it for me. But if you like it, then I say do it. Do what makes you happy. That's why we're doing all this. But right-handed, I'm way more coordinated. Okay, and this is just me talking now. This is just how I do it, even if it's wrong. This would be some hacks. One thing I'm going to do, other than getting that perfect D loop, up, 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 and a good long stroke length, I want my stroke length to maybe be further back like that. Okay? So there's a timing element involved. And then the other thing I'm going to do is pinch my rod down pretty low, and I'm going to get my wrist here, and then I'm going to, for the forward cast, I'm going to time it so the anchor is perfect. But I might even like rear back a little, which is kind of a no-no for Skagit casting, because we want to do that. But if I'm really going for the gold, I might sweep, rock back, and then when I get here, I'm going to just pinch as hard as I can between my top hand and bottom hand. I might rock back and get way back here, and then just pinch away so that I'm just crushing the rod between my bottom hand and my top hand. Okay, and that's what gets the long cast for me, for now. And it's not really proper, but it's how I do it. So you don't really want to try to get a super duper tight V loop or D loop. You just want to get it tight enough. If it's too tight and too fast and you sweep too hard, you're going to reach critical mass. You might blow your anchor. You can only do so much. And if you do, if I'm going to really sweep fast and flat, I might sweep so fast and flat that I sweep around like that, and I let my sink tip fall back into the water so it grips enough, okay, which that's not ideal. For just a fishing cast, I want everything to go out and around and cast like that. So if I'm just fishing away, I'm going to have the sweep. I'm going to sweep and drift up and keep tension. I'm not going to really drift up that much. I'm going to keep everything here. Okay? That time I didn't hardly have any effort into it, but I put enough pizzazz in my sweep to tighten the D-loop and so I could load the rod, and I barely even had to cast my forward cast. Okay, so I might go like okay, it reached the end nice, and I didn't have to hammer it because I had a nice crisp sweep, zero slack. So okay, I'll do it again. So I'm not really doing anything crazy. I'm just making sure that I'm just trying to like pull really hard with my like thumb and bottom hand against my top hand. I'm using both top and bottom. Okay. Okay, so the idea is get smoothness, tension. You want to feel the rod bend and load. You want to pinch it between the top and bottom hand. I didn't get a good D-loop. Didn't sweep fast enough. Okay, I got a wind coming upstream. I'll do it. When I cast cack-handed far, I use a lot of top hand. And I use my bottom hand to pry against my top hand, okay? So, I mean, we all talk about the bottom hand. Oh, you got to use your bottom hand, bottom hand, bottom hand. But I find myself using more top hand. Fact is, one thing I would not recommend if you're trying to cast far is to do this. Or to do, I do not want my hand coming into my belly when I'm trying to launch a line, because I'm going to be out here. I'm going to be here. Okay, how to send it with the Skagit setup. And first of all, I don't even recommend sending it with a Skagit setup because there's so much stripping involved that it's not really that fun anymore. But the problem I see with people is they're like trying really hard to like send it, you know, putting everything they have into it, and it's just not going anywhere. So first of all, if I see somebody like that, I'm going to check their setup. Maybe they have their Skagit head on backwards. I've done that, or whatever. So the mistakes I see people making when they're trying to send it with a Skagit head is they're like trying too hard and just hammering it. That's the first thing. They are just trying to kill it, and that's really not right. The second thing I see is throwing the top hand out and dropping the rod down to here. You know, like starting here and then throwing their arm out like that. See, the rod's actually level or almost on the water. Okay, that's the no-no, because you round out your rod tip, you got no power. And then the third thing that people recommend, but I don't think is really right if you're really trying to jack line a long ways, is I don't think if you're trying to jack it a long way, that stopping it with your body is really the best thing. And it can work. I can do it, but I have to have a long backstroke. I have to have my rod almost flat. Okay, so if I want to put it against my body, okay, that launched good. So you can do it that way, but you got to be back at 2 o'clock and then stop at 2 o'clock to stop it against your body. Another way to do it is to stop the rod out here with your bottom hand, because if you start here, you lengthen your stroke, and when you lengthen it and point the rod at the target, stopping like this, you're going to get a sharp, arrow, pointy loop. If you stop it with your body, you can also get a nice loop, but it might be a little more, have a tendency to be a narrow loop without a tight, pointy front loop. So if I want to cast into a wind, a far cast, I probably am gonna cast without stopping the rod with my body. I might stop it here. I still want to stop with a crook in my top arm, but I want to stop it with my bottom hand out here. or at least like that, okay? I don't think I want to necessarily go like that if I'm going for a long cast. Long cast, long casting stroke. And still, stopping the rod helps me with all my casting. And you can stop it lower, whatever works for you. But if you end up down here, you're going to get a long arcing rod tip path, and it's not going to go anywhere. You have to stop the forward cast with a crook in your arm, and it does help sometimes to stop it with your bottom hand out here, okay? So if I want to cast, you get better luck. I'll try to do one. Okay, I might cast like that, but I'm gonna stop it here, and then you can follow through so you don't hit your fly with your rod. Okay, so this is just like ideas, something to chew on. Mainly you want to be smooth. You don't really have to do a big fancy fast sweep. You want to have just enough oomph in your sweep that your bottom of your D loop stays off the water. Okay, that time I got it all. And the secret is I didn't just sweep really fast, get a big tight D-loop. I swept pretty reasonably fast, and then I let the line settle back in the water, and then when it landed, I just pried the crap out of it between this bottom thumb and my top hand. I just tried to crush it. I feel my bottom hand going out like this and just top against bottom, okay? I'm using both almost equally as much, okay? So top hand is very important. You just can't use your top hand all the way down to here. You gotta at least like that. Or when I'm cack-handed, I may be like here, and I might stop higher and just flip that off the rod tip. I'll do one while the wind is down. So cack hand. Probably going to use more top hand with my cack hand cast. Okay, that's how I cack hand cast for distance. It's a short little flip, mostly top hand, but I got a lot of resistance with my bottom hand. But I can't say I'm pulling more with my bottom hand. Okay, so it's like it's a top hand deal for me, so shame on me. Left-handed is really hard for me to nail a long Skagit cast, especially when I'm underlined a little bit like I enjoy. So I might sweep fast and flat and then let the sink tip settle back in so I can pry. And that's about my best left-handed. The idea is I'm really not good at hitting the sweet spot left-handed. I mean, maybe I can now. Just do a normal, non-super duper. Just gonna do a smooth, dump my line out around. Okay, that was pretty good. You'll notice I went out around and then I drifted back. So all of these are kind of Skagit casting no-nos, but I do them like this just to get a little extra power. Normally though, I'm just trying to get a tight loop, trying to get my fly back in the water. Okay, that's me left-handed right there. Right-handed, I'll do it. See, that's about as far as I can go left-handed. Unless I just let it sink and then rear back and then crush it with my bottom and top pinchers. Okay, throw in a little extra overhang. Okay, that's as good as I can do. Sweep flat, low, let it settle back down, and then rock back and however I did it. But now right-handed, so right-handed, see, I can really rear back and whoo, popper. But that's because I've been doing this for like 15 years, really practicing a lot and often, and especially for the last 8 or 9 years making this YouTube video stuff. It's just lots of reps. What really makes a great caster is reps, repetition, over and over and over, and getting your knack and getting your feel. See, I stopped here, didn't go as good. Now I'll stop out further in front of me more. Doing my standard rear back, flattening my back stroke like I do, which everybody seems to hate. That was better because I stopped here, stopped here, stopped here, stopped here. So you're not stopping here and sending a tight loop, you're stopping here and sending a pointing loop. You're just, you point that rod right where you want that loop to point to. It's super sharp, it cuts through the wind, it goes a long way. And I don't cast super heavy flies. I just don't care for that unless it's absolutely necessary. I'll just get a big old Skagit head and a big old sink tip and a big old fly and just flog them over each other. I don't really cast them. I just kind of flop them. If I think there's a big fish and I need to get it, that sucked. I'll do it again. See, I'm not trying to pull with my bottom hand. Like, what am I doing? I'm not trying to pull with my bottom hand like this. I'm trying to just resist with my bottom hand and use mostly my top. And I can't. When I first don't get warmed up, I feel it in my shoulder, so be careful. Oh, that was ugly. I'm bending it like this. That's how I like to bend it. Oh, nailed that. And that was like, okay, so I just got to face the fact that when I want to launch it, I'm going to sweep around with sweep around, probably fast and low, and then I'm going to rear back, and somehow, through vast skill and cunning, I'm going to launch it wrongly, the way no instructor would have you do it. But it is so fun. Try it again. It's like sometimes you gotta throw the book out the window and just go with what works for you. Oh, there she blows. Okay, I swept, I let it all sink, and then I just kind of pried it off the water, and out she went. So that's how I do it. Right, wrong, or indifferent, and I have so much fun that I don't care.